You just got your eMASS account. Your ISSO says your system is in step 4. You log in for the first time, click into the Controls tab, and you're looking at a list of 300 rows with status fields you don't recognize. Implementation narratives left blank by whoever had this system before you, and a package due date 2 months out. You have no idea where to start. If that's where you are right now, this video is your orientation. I'm going to walk you through eMASS the way an ISSM would explain it to a new ISSO in week 1. Not the DISA CBT, not the manual, the actual workflow you need to do your job. Before we touch anything in the tool, here's what most new ISSOs get wrong about eMASS. They think eMASS is the RMF process. It isn't. eMASS is the record system for the RMF process. Everything that happens in RMF, your categorization, your control selections, your implementation statements, your assessment findings, your POA&Ms, your authorization decision, eMASS records it and tracks it. But the work happens outside eMASS first. You write your implementation narrative in the information technology, categorization and selection checklist, ETCSC. Then you enter it into eMASS. You run your ACAS scans with a separate tool. Then you upload the results to eMASS. When you understand that eMASS is the repository, not the engine, the whole tool starts to make sense. You're not doing RMF in eMASS. You're documenting RMF in eMASS. That's the shift. When you log in, you'll see a list of systems you're assigned to. Click into your system. The first thing you see is the system overview. Think of this as your system's ID card inside the DOD. Key fields to know: system name and acronym. How is your system identified in the DOD inventory? Impact level: low, moderate, or high. This drives your entire control baseline. If it says moderate, you're working with roughly 325 controls. Current RMF step: tell you where your system sits in the lifecycle right now. Authorization status: not yet authorized, authorized, or denied. This is what your AO will eventually update when they make their decision. Registration type: for most systems you'll see assess and authorize. That means the system is going through the full ATO process, not just a limited assessment. Take 60 seconds to read this page every time you open a system you're not familiar with. Everything else in eMASS flows from these values. Now click the Controls tab. This is your security control traceability matrix inside eMASS. Every row is a control from your baseline. This is where you will spend most of your time as an ISSO. 4 columns you need to understand immediately. Control ID. The NIST SP 853 Rev 5 identifier, ASSI2, IF5, A12. These map directly to one of the control families. Implementation status. This is the most important field. Values are planned, implemented, inherited, not applicable, and manually inherited. Never leave a control blank. Blank fields don't appear in your package. Responsible entities: who implements, and who is the point of contact. The ISSO owns this field. Fill it in with specific names and roles, not just its staff. Compliance status: set by the assessor during Step 5. You can't edit this field. If it shows up before your assessment, it was carried over from a previous package. When you first open an inherited system with a backlog of blank controls, don't panic. Sort by implementation status. Handle inherited controls first. Those are typically DOD-wide or enclave-level controls. You'll document as inherited from a provider. Then work through planned versus implemented for system-specific controls. Click into any control. You'll see the NIST control text at the top, and below it the implementation narrative field. This is the most important field in eMASS. This is what your SCA reads. This determines whether control is marked compliant or non-compliant. Here's what a weak narrative looks like. Act 2, Account Management. Act 2 is implemented. The system uses Active Directory to manage user accounts. Accounts are reviewed periodically. That's 3 sentences and none of them are accessible. Periodically isn't a frequency. Manages user accounts doesn't specify how. This will come back as non-compliant. Here's the same control written to pass. Act 2A. The ISSO maintains a list of authorized account types, standard user, privileged, service and shared in Appendix F of the SSP reviewed by the ESM annually. AC2. The ISSO reviews all active accounts every 90 days using a PowerShell export from Active Directory. Results are documented in the Quarterly Account Review Report, uploaded to eMASS as Artifact Act 2 Car Date, PDF. Accounts inactive for 35 days are disabled within 5 business days. Same control. One is vague, one is accessible. The SCA reads the second one, opens your artifact, confirms the dates, and marks it satisfied. That's the workflow you're supporting when you write this way. Note: the implementation narrative field has a 2,000 character limit. Write concisely. Use artifact references to offload details. Don't include the entire review report in the narrative. Click the Artifacts tab. This is your evidence locker. Every document that supports your control implementation lives here. STIG results, scan reports, signed SOPs, and account review spreadsheets. 2 rules that prevent the most common eMASS mistakes. Rule 1. Name your artifacts to match your narrative. If your narrative states, see Artifact Act 2 Car Q1 2026.df, then the file in this tab must be named exactly that. Not Account Review. Not Q1 Review Final V2.df. Exactly what you wrote. The SCA will search for the name you specified. If it doesn't match, it's a finding. Rule 2. Use a consistent naming convention across all your controls. I use this format. Controlled document type date. Examples: Act 2 Car Q1 2020's TF, IA5 Password Policy V2.docx, AO12 Acascan 2026-03, Nessus. When your SK opens the Artifacts tab and sees a clean, consistently named list, they can move through it quickly. When they see final V3 edit this .docx, you've just created doubt. Stop. Because every new ISSO hits this wall and doesn't know what happened. The implementation narrative field in eMASS has a hard 2,000 character limit. That's roughly 300 to 350 words. Not much for complex control. When you're writing Act 17 Remote Access or SC28 Protection of Information at Rest, and you run up against that limit, here's what to do. Put the concise implementation summary in the narrative field and point to a detailed implementation statement document in your artifacts. Full implementation detail documented in Artifact AS17.impl statement v1d.bdep. The artifact holds the depth. The narrative holds the map. The SKA reads the map, opens the artifact, and gets the depth. That's how you work within the limit without losing detail. Write tight. Reference artifacts. The 2,000 character wall is a constraint that makes you a better technical writer. Click the POA&M tab. This is your plan of action and milestones, your open findings tracker. POA&Ms are created in 2 ways. First, the SCA identifies a weakness during the Step 5 assessment and creates a finding. eMASS auto-populates a POA&M entry linked to that control. Second, you identify a weakness yourself during your own continuous monitoring, a failed STIG or a missed review, and you create the POA&M manually. Key fields in every POA&M entry. Finding. Describes the weakness. Write it specifically. Act 2J. Account review not completed within the required 90-day cycle for Q4 2025 is a finding. Account issue is not. Scheduled completion date. When will you fix it? Be realistic. An unrealistic date that slips creates more paperwork than a realistic one that holds. Milestones, the steps you're taking to remediate. Week 1. Identify affected accounts. Week 2. Disable non-compliant accounts. Week 3. Document and upload completed review. Milestones show your OW that you have a plan, not just a problem. Status. Open, ongoing, or completed. Never mark something completed until the remediation artifact is uploaded and the finding is verifiable as closed. Your POA&M is a live document. For any changes, use the built-in eMASS workflow to submit them to your ISSO, who reviews it and approves changes. This is the process. Here's how everything you've just seen connects to your ISSO. Once your controls are documented, statuses are set, narratives are written, and artifacts are uploaded, your package moves to step 5. Assess. Your SK gains access to your system in eMASS, reviews your controls and records their findings. The findings that don't pass become POA&Ms. When the assessment is complete, the SKA produces a Security Assessment Report, SAR, and uploads it to eMASS. Your ISSOM reviews it. You finalize your POA&M with remediation plans for any open findings, and the package, SP-SAR POA&M, gets submitted to your authorizing official. Your ISSO reviews everything in eMASS and makes one of 3 decisions: ATO granted, ATO with conditions, or denied. The decision letter is entered into eMASS, and the authorization status field in your system overview updates accordingly. After that, you're in step 7, continuous monitoring. You stay in eMASS. You update control statuses when things change. You manage your POA&Ms. You upload monthly scan results. The system never leaves eMASS. It just moves from building a package to maintaining one. That's the eMASS workflow. From first login to authorization and into Conman. System Overview, Controls tab, Implementation Narratives, Artifacts, POA&Ms, Package Submission. If you're inheriting a system with a backlog, start here. Sort your controls by implementation status. Find everything marked, planned, or blank, and work through them one control family at a time. ACK first. It's the most assessed I second. Then I put together a free ATO pre-submission checklist that outlines exactly what to include in eMASS before you submit your package to the ISSO. It's the list I run through on every system I manage. Link is in the description. Free, no catch. If this helps, subscribe next week. How to write control statements that survive SP assessment. Weak versus strong examples for the top 10 most assessed moderate baseline controls. That one will save your package. See you there.